Vapor face! What's up, vape fam? Sorteal, and welcome to the Vaporworks lab. The Omnibus bill has passed with the synthetic nicotine language in it. So essentially that means that anything with synthetic nicotine in it is now in the FDA's PMTA wheelhouse, which sucks. I think everybody has like 120 days total to kind of file PMTAs and pull their product from the market. The hiccup to it is, if synthetic nicotine is the only thing that changed and you already got a denial, you can't refile because you didn't really change anything in the eyes of the FDA. You just tried to get around them, and it's kind of their, fuck you to any of those companies that just tried to circumvent the process. What does it mean for vaping in the United States? Well, it's probably the death knell of the brick and mortar vape shops as we know it. I called around to a lot of vape shops in about a 50-mile radius of where I lived, and all but two are basically planning on closing up shop in the next 120 days. The two that did not were the kind of bigger ones, actually, were chains of vape shops. One of them is also an e-liquid manufacturer, and they only said they had contingency plans in place for this already. So I don't know what they're going to do. I assume what they're going to do is a short fill system where they only sell their own pre-made e-liquid, not any kind of commercial as you would think. And they're only going to fill it to about there. So you can kind of add your own nicotine. Now those places do sell VG, PG, 100 milligram per milliliter nicotine in a VG solution. They also sell resistance wire for making your own coils, although they oddly don't really sell any rebuildable atomizers. It's fucking weird. I don't know if they'll be able to continue to sell nicotine in a VG solution. I don't really know what the rule is there. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But overall, you're probably going to see 90% of vape shops across the United States close down. I don't really see how they'll get around it. I definitely think there should be more lawsuits from e-liquid companies. So if any e-liquid company that kind of circumvented the FDA through synthetic nicotine did not file a lawsuit, they should now, and a lot of them. The FDA should be sued left and right over this because, like I said before, if you want to fight a regulatory body or a regulatory process, the court is really the only place that you can do it. You can't just bitch and moan and protest and scream about it online. It's not going to change anything. The courts are the only place you can get something like that changed, or Congress, but I mean, they've already made their decision. They're not going to change that. And most of the time, once legislative bodies pass a law, they don't generally pull it. They'll kind of make amendments to it, make exceptions to it, but that's not going to happen for a while. We definitely need to keep up the advocacy, push the science, push the facts, because I still think eventually one day science and facts will win out. I think once the smoking rate in the United Kingdom just plummets to practically nothing, and the same in New Zealand, I mean, both those countries, their smoking rates have already dropped dramatically. So once it gets to a point that they're closer to, say, Sweden, where their smoking rate is below 5% of the population, really that is essentially a smoke-free society, and they attribute it to vaping. The US might not be able to just ignore that. And, they're gonna approve some stuff. They already approved the View Solo. They'll probably approve the Juul, which is so weird because those are two products that teens use, and that has been their reasoning behind this from the get-go. And I guarantee you they're going to approve all of the products that teens normally use. I guess essentially, I don't know. I really don't know what the fuck they're thinking. Other than money, that's what they're thinking. The FDA's budget, huge portion of it comes from big tobacco and big pharma, the two industries that hate the vape industry. So, that's pretty much what's going on there. There's actually been a couple of former FDA commissioners that have said after their retirement that the FDA was only there to protect big pharma and big tobacco, and that's it. And if you think the FDA cares about your health, you are sadly mistaken. They do not. So where does that leave the average everyday American vapor? Well, you probably need to get into DIY. I'm pushing hard for every vapor out there to get into DIY because it's the only way you're going to be able to vape flavored e-liquid for the foreseeable future, for sure. You could probably try and order e-liquid overseas, but there's always, there's weird caveats to ordering e-liquid overseas. Not all shippers will even touch it. You could probably definitely get it overseas, but really the only for sure way is DIY. And it's a lot cheaper overall than, ordering e-liquid from overseas and having to constantly keep that up. You can't just go to the corner vape shop, pick up your e-liquid and be like, hey, I'll see you next week. You're going to have to order in bulk from overseas, which is going to be extremely expensive. Plus shipping, extremely expensive. So DIY is the cheaper option. Now, it does have a bit of a steep entry costs, and that's mainly due to nicotine. Now, if you go over to odyssey.com, I have a video where I talk about getting substances shall not be named on YouTube. That's what the video on Odyssey is called. And I tell you the companies that will ship it to you, how you can store it for long term. I need to do an update of it because some of the companies I mentioned are no longer in business. And I did mention one overseas option that I really didn't know anything about. It had just started to get talked about. But since then, I've ordered nicotine from them, and it's actually of a really high quality, higher quality than some places in the US that I've gotten it from. So I definitely want to go over that because that is definitely a viable option. You'll probably still be able to get nicotine from Canada, maybe even the UK. It's just a little iffy. The UK is weird because it seems like sometimes companies will let you order stuff and they'll ship it to the US, and then other times they're like, no. Signature Tips is one that did that a lot. There for a while, if you wanted to order the Trust in the United States, they made you go through another individual. I'm sure you can guess who. But now, like, you can order it direct from them and they don't care. I don't know what that whole thing is. I don't know if that's actually a British thing or just them not wanting to deal with any type of customs thing in the US. I really don't know. But that with the UK always kind of seems to go up and down. Canada, really, I've never not been able to order just about anything from Canada and it actually get to me. As far as the Asian market, that motherfucker's wide open. So there's always that. But I'm actually going to do a series of videos after this one where I go over how you become 100% vape independent. So you don't have to worry about, whatever goes on with Uncle Sam and vaping here in the United States. One thing that I think everyone should do within the next 120 days is go get at least 2 or 3 additional regulated mods. Like over here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 Pulse V2s still in the shrink wrap. I got them pretty cheap from overseas and ordered a ton of them. I have 3 Gower 21s that are still in the shrink wrap. And that's essentially because they will fire coils down to 0.05. And I like to build my RDAs at around 0.1 or 0.11, 0.12, right around there. And ohm readers or ohm meters like this generally won't fire anything below 0.1. So a lot of times when you get coils that maybe the pair is supposed to be 0.1, it's going to be lower than that until you pulse and pinch it. So that not firing below 0.1 really sucks. I have to use something else. So I really think regulated mods are probably more the way to go. but you are also going to need to get into rebuildables if you're not already. Now, I think most people that watch my channel are already into rebuildables, so you guys are fine. You can still get rebuildables. I think there will still be kind of a high-end market, that kind of person-to-person high-end market. That's not going to go anywhere. You'll still be able to get them from overseas, but, you know, and probably the same with regulated devices as well. But I really think everybody, just in case they do something to close that down, make sure you get some regulated devices, keep them in the shrink wrap, set them off to the side. Don't open them until the devices you're already using finally crap out. The big thing I think everyone needs to get into eventually is, like I said, rebuildables, but also mechanical mods, because these are the things that are going to last a lifetime. Especially mechanical tube mods, because there's not a whole lot of working parts to them. The only thing that's really could ever go wrong that you might need to replace or fix something really just be a spring for the most part. Yeah, that's probably about it. Threading could go bad, things like that, but that's highly unlikely if you're getting good mechanical mods. And springs you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot that would work in these things. So they're the only thing that you can take care of and will last a lifetime. Now, normally I would never push, hey, get into mechanical mods. Most of the time I'm warning people like, yeah, they're cool and they vape great, probably better than most regulated mods, but there's a lot of stuff you have to know. You need to know Ohm's law, and we will definitely go over that. And I'll show you some sites that have Ohm's law calculators, so you don't have to bust out a calculator and, you know, pad of paper and pen, try and figure out what the fuck you're building in your RDA and if it will work with the battery you're sticking in your mechanical tube mod. So we will go over all that. I'm also going to go over battery safety, because that's the next big thing. I will show you how to rewrap your batteries, where you can get new wraps, which there's a ton of places. Any type of online battery store has wraps. Obey Robot has wraps, a ton of cool ones. And then also kind of go over when you should chuck your batteries. Are they just gone? When should you go recycle them and order new ones? So we'll go over all of that. We'll go over how you take care of your mechanical mod. Now, I'm not just going to go over mechanical tube mods. We will also go over kind of the slightly more complex mechanical box mods. I'm hoping to have a clutch X18 before I really start that up, so we can kind of go over that one, because that one's a little unique with the fuses that it has. And I also would like to go over the original clutch and maybe a Denali, one of the 3D printed. We'll see what all we get to go over, but for the most part, the tube ones are going to be the ones that last a lifetime. Now, these definitely can, but you might want to get some spare parts for it. Like with that one, the topside SQ, I have some spare contact plates for the 510. And, you know, the sled itself sometimes could wear out, but it's not likely really. And I don't know. We'll see where we go with that. But overall, I think everybody needs to get into DIY. If you're not already into rebuildables, definitely get into rebuildables. Start looking and finding some overseas sites that, you know, people trust. There's several of them. I'm going to do a video over on Odyssey as well that goes over, hey, these are the sites overseas that a lot of people are kind of like, I don't know if I trust them or not. I go over the ones that I've used throughout the years that I trust 100% and have never screwed me over, or I've never had a product make it to me, or if I did, they refunded me the money and sent me another one, or whatever they did. There's actually been one company that sent me a RDA in the wrong color from what I ordered. They told me to keep that one, and they sent me a new one in the actual color that I ordered, and I didn't have to pay anything extra. So I essentially got 2 RDAs for the price of one, and that was a Chinese company. So I know a lot of people don't trust Chinese companies, but there are several really good ones out there. And over on Odyssey, we will go over all those. I would do it on YouTube, but they don't like that stuff. And Odyssey's just a better platform for talking about things like that. Also, I'll do an update video over on Odyssey about nicotine, where you can get it, how you can store it, all that. I do have the one video already up, but I want to update it with, you know, companies that I know more about. And then also, you know, because I mentioned some companies that are no longer in business. Plus, certain companies now, to kind of skate what's going on with the law, you kind of have to do a little bit of a dance with them to get them to actually ship it out to you. So we'll go over all that as well. But yeah, it sucks with this synthetic nicotine being in the omnibus bill. It really was, like the vape mail ban, not something that had a lot of groundswell underneath. There was not a lot of lawmakers out there that wanted that. They just didn't care. And so the small group that did forced it upon everybody else. And I really think something needs to be done about that, where people just shove in shit that nobody really asked for, nobody really wanted, into a must-pass bill like the omnibus bill. That stuff needs to go away, because that really should have been talked about and debated and really looked into, instead of what they did, which is just stick it in something that had to pass and essentially be like, oh no, this is for the kids, you definitely want to vote for this, without letting them really have time to look at it and be like, wait, no, I don't want to do this. So something needs to be done there, but it probably never will, given how fucked up American politics is. American politics is money. That's all it is. So, but yeah, stay tuned for the start of gaining your vape independence here on the Vaporworks Lab. Go over to Odyssey, check out the Vaporworks Lab over there, subscribe there, and I will have plenty of videos over there that talk about more things, like where you can get stuff, even if they, you know, kind of outlawed vaping, which is essentially kind of what they're doing. They're banning vaping without banning vaping, because, you know, prohibition looks bad politically, but if you just take away your ability to access any of it, that's okay. You're still allowed to vape. We're not gonna bust you on the street corner for vaping, but we're just not gonna give you any place to buy it, which is just insanity. That's a ban. That's prohibition, whatever you want to call it. That's what it is. But all right, guys, that's it. Stay tuned for that series. Vape on, and I will catch you guys in the next one.